Hello, everyone. In this lecture, we'll be looking at the poem A Dalit Women in the Land of Goddesses, written by Aruna Gokulamanda. So, this poem is a part of the syllabus Reading Gender, uh, which is prescribed for the MA English Literature elective paper. As an introduction to the poem, this poem was written on August or published on August 13, 2017, as a part of the 12th edition of Bards of Resistance. And one of the major ideas presented through this poem would be how mainstream Indian feminism has largely ignored the Dalit women's struggles. It's very much similar to what other writers have also been talking about, people like Gopal Guru in his essay How Dalit Women Speak Differently. It's a very similar idea presented through this particular poem. Now, Aruna Gokulamanda is one such Dalit activist who fights for the rights of Dalits and especially Dalit women. And this poem is kind of voicing the issues that Dalit women face. Now, here, Brahminical patriarchy has reduced the Dalit women to an object of hatred, desire, and contempt. And here, through the poem, that is what the poet is talking about. The Dalit women's unprotected labor in fields and construction sites makes her vulnerable to sexual exploitation. So here, their sufferings are manifold. You can find that it is not just based on gender, it's not just based on caste. Everything comes together. That is how or what the Dalit women are going through. After being used, Dalit women are discarded as untouchable. So, that is also something being discussed in this particular poem. The poet Arna, her writings give voice to Dalit women's pain and strength, which are often silenced. So, their struggles are not ever discussed. And through this poem, she is trying to bring this as a mainstream discussion. She has even faced criticism from men, even within the Dalit community, for her bold writing. So, when women like her talk about the struggles that the Dalit women are enduring. Now, when we talk about the struggles, it is not just from people outside their community, but it is also from the people inside their community. So, like I mentioned, their struggles are both within internal as well as external. And so when women like Arna, they talk about these kind of issues, they are criticized from people within their community as well, because they feel that by revealing these kind of issues, people will further look down upon the community when they are not ready to change. They are not ready to change their actions, but they think that the other people will look down upon the community. So all these are issues that she is trying to talk about through this particular poem. The Dalit women in the land of goddesses. Now we'll do a line by line understanding or interpretation of the poem. The poem starts off like this. She was told not to wear a blouse, to allow every male watch her as a device. She was told to bend her back, not to walk straight, to fill the tender tummies, keeping herself a bait. So here she is talking about the working women, the Dalit women who are laborers, who are working for the upper caste community. So here she starts off, it's both historical as well as it has a relevance both in history as well as the present time. So here she is talking about how they were told not to wear blouses. So it is a reference to whatever the women, Dalit women, had endured in the past. So how they were not allowed to cover their how they were not allowed to cover their breast. And that is what the poet is talking about. So she is telling that they were not allowed to wear a blouse, to allow every male to watch her as a device. So every male could just look at them, to ogle at them. So this was how the Dalit women were looked at. She was told to bend her back, not to walk straight, to fill her tender tummies, keeping herself a bait. So here, bend her back. also implies the manual labor that they were expected to do, and also how they were expected to be submissive and serve the upper caste or the community, the upper caste community. Now, here, bait, it is kind of implying the danger that they were enduring. So they had to work, they had to struggle, they had to be submissive in order to fill their tummies as well as to take care of their families. She was told to toil all day long in the fields as a human machine, deprived of food and water. She was told to swallow the pain of not feeding her baby, though her lactating breast pined to sate in hunger. She was told to take the insults, jeer, beatings, and assaults for being born a woman in a cursed clan. So here the Dalit women, like I mentioned earlier, they were expected to work. That was what was expected from them. They had to work very hard, not only to feed the other communities but also to feed their own families. So she had to work without any question. She had to work all day long in the fields like a human machine. She was deprived of, when she uses the word she is representing all the women, all these Dalit women who had faced the same issues. So they were deprived of food and water, and she was also told to swallow the pain of not feeding her baby. Now here, it it also talks about how when she was taking care of the fields in order to nourish the children of the upper caste, she did not get an opportunity to nourish her own child. She had to endure the emotional torment of not being able to take care of her own child, to tend to her own child. But she was working very hard on the field so that she can fill the bellies of all those children from the upper caste. She was told to take the insults, jeers, beating, and assaults for being born a woman in a cursed clan. So she was expected, like it was kind of expected for her to endure all this because it is your fault that you were born into such a community. This was how she was treated. She was told to take the daily thousand cuts of sexist remarks, acts, and assaults of her man and master. So, like I mentioned earlier, the poet is also talking about the violence that a Dalit woman had to endure from her own community as well as from the upper caste men. So here, that is what her men and the master implies. All the thousand cuts, the sexist remarks, the assaults she had to endure from her man as well as from the upper caste men. She was told that she is bad omen, a bloody sanitary pad, useful but a disgusting topic. So here you can find the irony being presented. She has used a very contemporary imagery over here, a sanitary pad, which is very useful. But when it is stained, it becomes a very disgusting topic. It is kind of the idea of abjection over there. A stained, bloody sanitary pad becomes all of a sudden a disgusting topic. That is how a Dalit woman is treated. The relentless sun beats on her, her dreams, beauty, and youth sacrificed in the service of the land, the hut, the master. Um, Here you can see the sun is a symbol of relentless hardship, and regardless of time, be it young age or old age, she has to continue working, and her dreams, her beauty, her youth, everything is sacrificed for this. Her eyes, two dry hollows, bear silent witness to hundreds of deaths of her mothers, daughters, sisters. So her body, the body that has been enduring all the suffering, is a witness to the historical trauma, is a memory, it's like a place of memory, holding all those memories of everything that her ancestors had gone through. Their dreams, respect, and their bodies, everything that her mothers or her daughters or her sisters or even the ancestors had endured, it's her body is kind of like a testimonial of all those. Their dreams, respect, and their bodies. Her calloused hands, her unkept hair, her cracked heels, her wrinkled hair, tell the tales of living through fear and years, of centuries and millennia of violations and death. So, all this, her body, like I mentioned, it holds a memory of the historical trauma, everything, the violence that uh, was endured in the past, that is endured in the present, and that will be endured in the future. So her body is kind of like a place that holds memory of everything that has gone wrong in their life. Finally, the poet concludes a poem. She was told that she was dirt, she was filth, and in this sacred land of thousands of goddesses, she is called a Dalit. So, this is where the title for the poem comes. And here, the word dirt signifies both her social location and the perceived pollution assigned to her by the casteist ideologies. So, dirt can imply how she is working on the land, she is working for the upper caste men on the land, and it also implies the casteist remarks. So the word dirt implies that. And finally, the poet concludes. So this is where the title comes from. A Dalit woman in the land of goddesses. So it is quite an irony, because we are a land, in our culture, in our land, we worship goddesses. We celebrate days. We celebrate goddesses. So many celebrations. But when it comes to a woman, there is no respect, there is no dignity, and especially when it is a Dalit woman, you can understand what goes wrong over there. So in a land that boasts about the reverence for the divine feminine, the real women are denied even basic human respect. So this is where the title comes from, and this is how the poem ends, and this is what the irony is. So, with this, we have come to the end of our discussion of the poem Dalit Women in the Land of Goddesses.